Hello, and welcome to today's webinar session on how to boost your survey response rates. Boosting survey response rates is definitely a very important topic in conducting surveys, and it's a pretty common question and desire of our customers. So some customers, they'll be struggling with just even receiving a minimum number of acceptable responses for their projects, while some others are just maybe in general looking to overall improve their survey response rate so they can pull more data from a larger sample size. What is considered a good response rate? SoGoSurvey, a company that works with others in a large variety of different industries, we can definitely say that this is going to be variable on a bit of a case-by-case basis. However, based on the two most common types of surveys we frequently see, which involves either customer or employee surveys, we tend to say that roughly about 20 to 30% for a customer survey is considered good, while instead roughly 80 to 90% for an employee survey is considered good. But of course, this isn't to say that further improvements can't always be made. Because even with the best looking or designed survey, you may still not be able to get as many responses as you may be hoping for. And so that's why I'm with you here today to talk about this topic on how to improve your rates. Today we'll be going over basically some of the most important or core factors that can help improve your survey response rates. And as you might expect, it's not a one miracle pill type of deal here. So it's not just a single one of these factors, but a collection of different practices that ultimately will end up driving your response rate improvements. And so this list, of course, also does not include every single possible practice or method, but we'll cover the main ones, at least here, that we recommend from the SoGoSurvey side. And so with that, let's dive into the information. I want to provide just a very brief introduction as your host for today's webinar. My name is Rob DeLeon. I am a technical support engineer here with the SoGoSurvey's team located here in Herndon, Virginia. And with that, we will move into the rundown of things. So we have a list here. So here are the 6 core key points that we're going to be talking about today. So starting with survey development and design, probably the number one thing that people think of first when it comes to boosting response rates. And then we'll move into talking about effective communication, using the right channels and timing for your audience, strategic follow-up, incentivizing participation, and then sharing results. And so on the first topic of survey development and design, we are going to start it off with a simple acronym that we use here, known as KISS. Keep it short and simple. So some other people might know this acronym for another meaning, saying that in terms of keep it short, stupid, but we wanted to try to avoid any kind of name calling or derogatory term, so we'll keep it on the more pleasant side with keep it short and simple. So basically with this, what we mean is that usually especially on the customer side, in general, the number of responses that you receive will end up dropping as the number of questions increase. So it means it's inversely proportional. So just as a little diagram here. So let's say if Y was your response rate and X was your number of questions, the more and more you add the number of questions, the less likely people are going to want to participate in the survey, since of course it's just going to be longer and more cumbersome. It's going to take more time, so people are going to be less likely to want to fully participate. So one of the ways that you can also keep things at least simpler or shorter is to use different features that we have, such as branching and QDL, which is question display logic. And what these are different logic operators within our system. And basically what it lets you do is, let's take an example of let's say a customer survey. Let's say that you as a company, you have 3 different products. Let's call them products A, B, and C. And you are asking your customers to go ahead and rate each of these products. But of course, you want to ask them first if they even use these products. So let's ask them if they use this product, and let's say a customer selects products A and B, but not product C. So you want your survey to be intelligent based on this response and use logic, and also not ask them questions about product C. So it'll basically route them only to questions that pertain to products A and B and not product C. So definitely keeping it relevant using logic features like that we have within the SoGoSurvey platform. And also in terms of trying to keep things minimum or shorter for your participants. We also have another feature called data population, which is talked about here. So using pre-population to avoid asking unnecessary questions on information you already know. Essentially what data pre-population allows you to do is that it allows you to pre-fill information in your survey based on participants, so information you already know. So let's say if you had the demographic information, so things just like their name, maybe something like even their date of birth, if it was an employee survey, or you have information like their manager name if it's an evaluation. All that information you can have automatically pre-filled into the survey so that you do not have to ask your participants to fill in that information. And continuing on the topic of design, we also definitely encourage variety. Variety, as you know, it's the spice of life. So we want to definitely use engaging question types that are still relevant to the question content that is being asked. And so using engaging question types will definitely help make the survey a bit more fun. It'll keep participants involved and engaged with the survey, and will help you collect better data. So as an example here, we see this in a lot of some basic surveys where every question is just a radio button after another radio button. So you got a radio button, and then here's another radio button question, and then another radio button question. So this mentioned, it can be kind of boring at times. It might be a little bit bland. Definitely want to try to encourage some variety if possible, but definitely don't overcomplicate it with unnecessary variation. So you don't want to kind of try to go out of your way to try to include certain question types, even though it might not be in context or have any real reason that it needs to be there. So you don't want to kind of go in there and be like, how can I throw this ranking question in there, even though I'm not asking them to rank something, So just it's pretty much finding that fine line between just enough variation and also keeping it not too complicated so that it won't confuse them when they're actually going through the process, and that they're constantly having to change how they're answering the question just due to all the different question types. And on the design side still, we definitely encourage dropping the acronyms. So definitely some acronyms are always good. And so, of course, in this presentation, I just used one just a couple slides ago talking about QDL, question display logic, but at least if we have to use acronyms, we definitely recommend spelling them out. If you have a whole survey just full of all kinds of different acronyms and it's not easily understandable or defined, it's something that can definitely cause your audience to potentially not want to participate or be as engaged in the survey. But of course, this is up to you to know your audience. If you have an audience that is very familiar with all these acronyms, it might be something that's completely acceptable. But in other cases, you might want to have to define it, or even do something like put almost like a glossary of terms within the survey itself somewhere. Something like that can always be another option as well. And just speaking on acronyms, so we're going to talk about also language, and you'll see throughout this presentation that language is going to be a pretty common theme that touches on many of these key points that we're going to be talking about. So you definitely want to make sure that your language and options are clear and easy to understand. So what we mean by that is just, let's take some of these examples here and decide. So we have this one that asks, do you oppose not allowing the board to pass Article 10 of the ballot? So as you read through this, this is the first thing that kind of comes to my mind. I'm sitting here, and as I start analyzing parts of it, I'm thinking, do I oppose not? So does that mean, do I support? So kind of having language like this where it ends up being a double negative, it can cause your participants to kind of need to do a little bit of extra analyzing on their side, and it might confuse some people. So just having your language as clear as possible will definitely help improve your survey response rates. And also down here too, so this also of course pertains to your answer choices. So not only your answers, but you want your answer choices to be clear and also make sense as well. So this is actually one that we have seen before several times, where it's asking some demographic question about your age group within certain brackets. So as you can see here, it's asking under 18, 18 to 24, 24 to 34, 34 to 45, over 45. And so the issue here, of course, comes where this overlap is right here. So, which do I choose if I'm 24 or 34? Because technically, if I'm 24, both these options pertain to it. And if I'm 34, then both these do. So just making sure that your answer choices are as clear just along with your questions. And still continuing on the design side of things, since this is a bit of a longer topic, we definitely want to talk about the visual side of things in terms of your design. It's not only the content, but how it appears as well. So you want to definitely make sure that your survey is visually appealing, but definitely don't go overboard. So your survey, you want to make sure it definitely has a lot of visual clarity to it. So if you do something like this, so this is a very bad example. If you got yellow text on a white background, definitely don't do this, especially knowing that people have different levels of perception in terms of visibility. So people, of course, they have different levels of, some people might be colorblind, so certain colors might be easier for some people to see, but not others. So best bet is to try to stick to something that's pretty high contrast, like white on black, of course, or black on white, but definitely try to keep it as visible. Keep that in mind. But also, you can also make your survey more visually appealing, especially for your company. So within SoGoSurvey, we have different templates that you can create, and essentially with these templates, you could create one of these that actually has your brand identity in it. So you could do things like your brand colors to make it more of a personalized survey and make your participants engage and know that it's pretty much a survey that is pertaining to your brand. And with that, we are going to move on to the second topic. So out of design, and now let's talk about effective communication. So this ties in once again to more language. So the first point that we have here is that you, as the survey administrator, have the ability to be able to create interest and awareness before the survey arrives. And what we mean by that is that you should go ahead and try to communicate to everybody to make them aware that essentially that there's a survey that's going to be coming, so that it's something that doesn't just seem like it's kind of out of the blue, so people know to expect it and they can make, possibly make time in their schedules. Because let's say if you didn't communicate this ahead of time, that people might receive the invite, and let's say that, I did want to respond or partake in this survey, but at the same time they're so busy and they have so many other things going on and it was unplanned that the survey ends up getting buried under a whole list of other things and they just completely forget about it. So definitely just creating some kind of interest and awareness, expectations that a survey is going to arrive in some kind of way is going to be definitely a positive. And in terms of the actual invitation, once you send it out, so either your invitation or introduction, you want to go ahead and be transparent with your participants. So share with your participants the purpose of the survey, how the results will be used, the time frame, and so on. So speaking of the time frame, we actually have a feature within our platform where we actually provide you estimated completion times, as you can see here. So this is information you can relay to your customers. So in terms of the invitation or introduction, some people might do it within the email invitation themselves, or if they're not distributing it via email, then some participants or some administrators, they will kind of handle it through like a cover page. So you might have one page of your survey that doesn't really have any questions. It's just a lot of introductory text, either that or you can have it just as a paragraph before your survey. So it's up to you on how you would like to communicate this information, but we definitely recommend being transparent about it, especially in today's day and age when there's a lot of concerns about data security, people spying on people, collecting their personal data, things like GDPR going on. Definitely transparency will help you produce better results. And on the topic still of language, you definitely want to make sure that in this communication, so whether it's in the introduction or the pre-introduction section where you're actually creating awareness of your survey, you want to make sure that, of course, your language and your emails, so if you're using emails, are definitely as clear as possible in terms of their message. And so the third point we're going to talk about is preferred channels and timing. So in today's age, of course, we have all kinds of different channels where people can communicate through. So we have our common one of email, which is definitely our most preferred. But there are also other ones such as social media, and then you have websites, you have SMS, and we do have all of these different communication channels available for distributing your survey. So it's up to you as the administrator to know your audience and what would be the best way to connect the survey with them. So up to you to know the right distribution methods. Should I be sending it via SMS? Should I be sending it via email? Should I do it on social media? So up to you to choose and know the best way to connect with your participants. And also on the recurring theme of language, so using the right language with your audience as well. So in terms of maybe just the way you speak with them, in terms of the tone of the language, or it could even mean, just the actual language itself. Let's say that that your audience is going to be, there's going to be a lot of people who speak Spanish within your audience. So we do have within our platform multilingual support. So you might want to try to do something like creating a Spanish version and a English version of your survey so that people can choose this language that's easier for them to communicate in. So things like this can definitely help drive and improve response rates. And so the third point here is actually something that some people don't always think about, but it's actually talking about the right time and day for delivery. And so what we mean by that is that, let's say if you were to go ahead and try to send a survey and you wanted a fast set of responses, but you decided, hey, I'm going to send this survey at 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. That might be one of the worst times that you can send out a survey, because at that point, of course, you think about it, the normal Monday through Friday work week, once it gets to Friday, especially that late in the afternoon, people are basically mentally checking out for the week. So they're definitely going to be less likely inclined to actually look at it, or they're just going to put it off and be like, oh, it's like, maybe I'll just do that on Monday instead, and then it gets completely buried in their inbox by everything else that comes in over the weekend and just completely gets lost. So that's definitely something you'll want to keep in mind. And same thing with Monday too. First thing on a Monday might not necessarily be the best thing either. But of course, it's up to you to know your audience best. But if we had a recommendation, we would definitely say usually sometime midweek is probably going to be better, sometime Tuesday through Thursday. And with that, we will move on to the next key point of strategic follow-up. And so once you actually send out those invitations and those survey invites, well, what's next at that point, right? So do you just let it float out there and just kind of slowly twiddle your fingers and just wait for responses to come in? So definitely you don't want to do that. So you want to have a little bit of a proactive approach in terms of following up. So definitely one of the features that we have available within SoGoSurvey is the ability to automatically send reminders to non-participants of the survey. So sometimes, as mentioned, it could be something where somebody did want to participate in it, and then it just got put on the back burner just due to a bunch of other work. So sometimes just sending a friendly reminder, so either automatically through our system or manually on your side, and just kind of nudge them, can definitely help improve survey response rates. And with those reminders also, so with these follow-ups, it's definitely worth as well experimenting with the actual invitation message. So this comes once again back to language. So talking about just experimenting and seeing how you communicate with them within the reminder itself can definitely help drive response rates, because if one message doesn't work the first time, another message may work the second time. So definitely experiment with that. And of course, the third point here is that you want to actually track what is happening to your invitations. So we have a section within the platform pictured here known as Track Survey. So within here, as you can see, you can do the reminders as well. And you can also track and see exactly what's happening with your invitations. Because, of course, you want to know if the invitations are being even delivered in the first place. If you sent out 50 invitations and all 50 of them are being bounced due to different restrictions from the email server, then of course you're going to have a very bad response rate because no one's ever even seen your emails coming in. So stuff like that, you definitely want to keep tabs on what's happening with your invitations. Okay, as we're getting towards the end here, we're going to talk about incentivizing participation. So this is the next key point, and the first thing that comes to mind, of course, for everybody is going to be money. Money, money, money. Money and gift cards usually is what you see when it comes to people incentivizing participation with surveys. So there's definitely ways to get creative with incentivizing surveys, but money is not always the only motivator, but it's usually the first thing that you think of, since you think of companies that actually pay people to do surveys by the survey. So we do have customers, well, potential customers that come to us at times, and they think that we're one of those kind of platforms where they can sign up and partake in surveys and get paid. But so definitely another example that we have right here on the next slide. It's actually one that one of my colleagues received. So in this one, they're trying to incentivize participation by sending a copy of the completed study. So this is something that they're trying to basically capitalize on human curiosity, because generally speaking, if you're going to participate in a survey, you have some kind of a stake in the information that survey. So that it's a high chance that you're going to actually relate with the content of that survey. So definitely just knowing the results of a survey can just lead to natural human curiosity that you want to know kind of, what other people are experiencing and compared to your experiences or your feedback. So that is just one example. And on the topic of sharing that information, that comes to the very last point too, of sharing results and closing the loop. So you definitely want to use that information. So kind of like how we had talked during effective communication, being transparent with your customers. You want to be transparent at the end too. So you want to actually share that information along and show them that, hey, this is how we ended up using the information, and this is how we plan on using this information to either make a difference or drive positive change. And by being transparent with your customers and sharing this information, you can basically build trust with them as well. And that is all we have for today. And so with that, I'd like to thank you for attending. If you have any questions, feel free to connect with us at SoGoSurvey.com. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.